Good morning and welcome to Daily Tanya. Today is Sunday, the fourth day of Nisan. Let's begin with tzedakah. Gedolah tzedakah, shemikarev es geula. So we are middle of chapter 38. We're going to learn the lesson of yesterday from Shabbos, the third day of Nisan. And in this chapter, the Alter Rebbe explains the specialty of Kavanah, doing mitzvahs and praying with the Kavanah. What is Kavanah? Kavanah is the feelings, the understanding, the concentration of why we're doing the mitzvahs to connect to Hashem. And we left off last lesson. The Alter Rebbe quoted what it says that mitzvahs b'lei kavanah kaguf b'lei neshama. When you do a mitzvah without kavanah, it's like a body without a soul. So if you want to bring life into the mitzvah, you need to have kavanah. You need to do it with kavanah. And this needs explanation because as we learned in the last few lessons, we learned about the importance of the actual mitzvahs. The bottom line is doing the mitzvah, the physical action. Why? So we explain because this is how we purify the entire world. You purify your animal soul when you're using the energy and the vivifying soul to do God's will. And that energy becomes united with Hashem. And the same thing with the different objects of the world that you come across, that you deal with, that is involved directly or indirectly. And as we said, it ends up with a chain reaction that has a ripple effect on so many things. And then ultimately, the entire world is being elevated by doing the mitzvahs of action. And that we explained is something that is godliness is revealed because this in the actions of mitzvahs, because this is the will of Hashem. So why is the kavanah, the intent, the feelings, why is that important? So the Alter Rebbe is going to explain that to understand this, we need to give a little introduction. When we said that the world is concealed of godliness, you don't see God. What do you see? You see what you see. You see the physical objects. Godliness is concealed. And the only thing that godliness is not concealed is in the mitzvahs. Because the mitzvah is the will of Hashem, and therefore, when a physical object is used for the purpose of a mitzvah, then the real purpose of that object is revealed. So take, for example, when you go to work, let's say someone has a job, not making millions, making a living, and he has a family. He needs to support his family. He doesn't particularly like the job very much, but he goes, he wakes up in the morning to go to the job. Why? Because he loves his children. He wants to feed the children, his wife and his children. So when you do the act, when you're sitting in the office and you're sitting by the computer or whatever you do, that act itself of working, do you see, is the purpose of the act revealed? It's not revealed. You don't see in the act of working in the office that you have a purpose in it of feeding your family or providing for your family. You just see an act of working in the office. Now, when you get home and your daughter says to you, I want to buy some clothing for Passover. Can I have a credit card? I want to go online and order something. And you give the credit card, that act is revealed for the act itself tells you, it shows that you're doing something, what you want to do, with the purpose. This is really the purpose, what you want to do. you really want to help and provide to your child. Now you can do this. This is the act itself. The act itself reveals, it's in a revealed way, you're doing what you really want to do. Now, when you're doing this act, you can do it in a way without showing real interest. You can show, you can do it to give the credit card and give a credit. Okay, take it. I'm not interested so much. You're still doing the act, but it's not. You don't have this excitement in doing it. Or you can do it with excitement, saying, "Yes, my love, my dear, here, I'm giving it to you. Take, do what you want." You bring the feelings into this. So in the feelings, comes something deeper within you that is revealed. So this perhaps can be used a little bit to explain what the Alter Rebbe is saying here. The entire world, the purpose is concealed. Godliness is concealed, whether the body or the soul. I'm talking about the vivifying soul. It is, you don't see godliness in it. You don't see the purpose in it. It's not in a revealed way. You don't see that this is Hashem working here in this world. This is called Hester, concealment. So the body and soul are equally concealed of godliness. The vivifying soul and the body are equally concealed of godliness. But yet, there is much more godly energy revealed in the soul than there is in the body. So godliness is concealed, but the energy, the level of energy, of godly energy in the body is less than in the soul. So when you're doing a mitzvah, the mitzvah itself is godliness revealed, but you're doing it with the body. When you're doing it with the body, the level of godly energy that is invested in doing the mitzvah is a much, much lesser level of godliness. When you're involving also the kavanah, the meaning, the feeling, the intention to be connected to Hashem, and obviously there is different degrees and levels, how much a person can achieve that level, then it is the soul of the mitzvah. You're putting your soul into the mitzvah. You're putting much greater level of godly energy, a greater level of the hispashtus, the expansion of godly energy. So let's see inside how the Alter Rebbe says. We're going to start with yesterday's lesson. Okay, almost ready. There you go. Says the Alter Rebbe, "Ve'af shebishneim oir echad shove b'bchinas hester panim." True, in terms of concealment of the countenance, the degree to which the countenance, the inner aspect of the divine life force, is concealed, so the light is the same in both the body and soul. Body and soul are both concealing godliness in the same way. The garments in which the light hides, conceals, and clothes itself are identical in body and soul, because you don't see godliness, not in the body and not in the soul. And again, when we're talking about the soul, we're not talking about the godly soul, the spiritual soul. We're talking about the vivifying soul that makes the body go alive. So this kishnei me'o'elam hazeh shebichlalusam mistater b'shoveh ha'oir ve'achayus shemaruach v'yizborech. Because both body and soul are of this world, where throughout the world and all of its creatures spiritual as well as physical, the light and life force issuing from the breath of God's mouth are equally concealed. Hashem makes it alive, brings it to life, but it's still concealed. You don't see that it's godly. And this comes about, this world comes to existence by way of concealment and countenance, and by the descent of the life force from level to level, by means of numerous powerful tzimtzumim, powerful contractions, through the various levels, constituting the chain-like succession of worlds. This we explained many times. There is for God to bring this world to being, he went through chain-like descent. One level leads to another level, and it's more filtering the life, the godly energy. Ultimately, after all the contractions, he went and it was clothed in a klipa, in a shell that totally conceals godliness, to the point that a person can go ahead and do something against God himself. Finally clothing itself in klipas noiga. Klipas noiga is the shell, what's called noiga, that meaning potentially it can be good because you can use it for godly things, but potentially can go down into the lowest levels in order to give life to the totality of this material world. The Hainu, which means all things of this world that are permitted and pure, which receive their vitality directly via klipas noiga, and from them and through the klipas noiga, they evolve all the impure, forbidden things. Even the impure things also come from this level of klipas noiga, the shell, which is called the shell of noiga, that has the potential to have light. Since it is the intermediary level between holiness and all life, where all life originates, because nothing comes outside of God. Nothing exists outside of Hashem, so everything has to originate from holiness. But in order to come from holiness into the levels of the impurity, it goes through this intermediary called klipas noiga. Kanis Kalel, as mentioned above. So when it comes to the concealment of godliness, body and soul are equally concealed. You don't see godliness. Nevertheless, there is also what's called the tzimtzum. So in the Kabbalistic terms, there is the hester and there is tzimtzum. Hester means the concealment. The tzimtzum means the contraction. That means that even the godly energy that is concealed can be contracted and can be not contracted so much. Can be more energy and can be less energy. Just like when the sun shines, you can have, if you put a curtain, then the light of the sun is going to be a different type of light. That's called concealment. You're concealing the light. But even if the light is concealed, you can have also a contraction. For example, if the room has a window, the sun comes through the window. If it has a tiny little hole, you're contracting the light sun to the tiny little hole. So the light is more contracted. Or take, for example, energy that goes through a wire. The voltage that goes through the wire. You don't see it, but some carry more voltage and some less. Some appliances use less voltage, some appliances use more voltage. So what he's going to say is that the energy the godliness is concealed equally in all beings of this world, whether spiritual or physical, like the difference between body and soul. But yet, the amount of energy, the amount of godly energy, although be it concealed, it's not the same amount of energy in the body, the same as it in the soul. Obviously, the soul has much greater level of godly energy than in the body. That's what he says. Nevertheless, the godly illumination, meaning the flow of vitality by which God illuminates and gives life to all creatures of this world, by way of this garment, meaning the klipas noiga, this is not the same for them all. And the difference between the life force of the various creatures is in the terms of contraction and expansion. In some creatures, the life force is constricted and limited, while in others, it finds broader expression. And this is, we continue now today's lesson, the example that he brings. So he brings an example. He says, in this world, we have, generally speaking, we have 4 categories. We have the doimim. This is the inanimate objects, silent objects, things that don't move like stones. And you have tzomeach, vegetations. Then you have chai, the animal world. And then you have medaba, the humans. So obviously you cannot compare the energy, the godly energy that is in the body, the physical objects, the inanimate objects, to the energy that you have in the soul. Continues the Alter Rebbe. In the physical body of a living creature, and in an absolutely inanimate being, such as stones and earth, the ray of the divine creative power is in a state of unparalleled contraction. So minute is the life force within these inanimate beings that they lack even the power of growth. In vegetation, the ray is not so greatly contracted. You have more energy in the vegetations. In general, all things in this world are divided into these 4 categories: the mineral, vegetable, animal, and man. Medaba means literally speaker, the speaker. That's the quality of man, is speaking. And that goes, this is corresponding to the 4 letters of the divine name, the Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey, the tetragrammaton, from which they are derived. And just as the illumination and the flow of vitality found in the mineral and vegetable, and these categories bear no comparison or likeness to the illumination and flow of vitality clothed in animals and men, in the animals and men, you clearly see that they're alive. You see there's much more energy. Although they are all concealed of godliness. Although in all of the 4 categories, the divine and animating light is the same in terms of concealment of countenance, meaning you don't see godliness. Even in the human, you don't see godliness there. And in all 4 categories, the light is clothed in the same garment, namely the garment of the klipas noiga. Kach ein erch v'dimen klal. The same thing now the Alter Rebbe draws the parallel. The difference between the mitzvahs of action and mitzvahs that you do with Kavanah. You cannot compare the light, the energy that is, the godly energy that is in the mitzvahs of the action. Says the Alter Rebbe, Kach ein erch v'dimen klal bein ha'oras v'amshachas oir ein soiv bochu. Shu pnimius rotzoni yisborach bli ester ponim melevush klal. Similarly, there is no comparison or likeness between the illumination and flow of the blessed Ein Sof light, meaning the inner aspect of his will, without concealment of countenance and with no garments whatsoever. Where do you have light of Hashem without garments? That you see godliness, that is the mitzvahs. When you do a mitzvah, this is the ultimate will. This is why Hashem created the world. So the light, the godly light that is in the unconcealed godliness, which is the mitzvahs, still cannot be compared in mitzvahs that you do only with action to mitzvahs that you do with kavanah. So the mitzvahs, as it radiates and is clothed within the mitzvahs consisting of action. Now we're talking about action, could be action with the hands, whether actual action, or mitzvahs performed through speech and verbal articulation, which is regarded as actual action as mentioned above. Also, when you mitzvah that you do with your mouth, speaking is also a form of action. So when you perform those mitzvahs without kavanah, without the intent, without the inner life, it cannot be compared to the mitzvahs that is done with kavanah. You cannot compare it to the illumination of the Ein Sof found in these mitzvahs. Bear no likeness and comparison with the superior illumination and flow of blessed Ein Sof, radiating and clothed in the kavanah of the mitzvahs of action. So the kavanah has the greater, deeper light, godly energy. Now, what is when we're saying about doing kavanah, praying with kavanah? What do we mean by praying with kavanah or doing a mitzvah with kavanah? It's obviously, number one, you're doing the mitzvah of Hashem. You're praying, fulfilling a mitzvah. Kavanah could be kavanah when you read understand the words what you're saying. Is also a form of kavanah, but that's not what he's talking about here. He's talking about the kavanah is the feeling, the desire to connect to Hashem through the mitzvahs. That because this mitzvahs is Hashem's will, and God and His will is one. Unlike human, that the will is a separate thing than the person himself. By God, Hashem and His will are one. Meaning man's intention to attach himself to God by fulfilling His will as expressed in the mitzvahs, since He and His will are one. And similarly also, when you pray, and similarly when you say the Shema, or when you say any blessings. Similarly, with regard to kavanah in prayer and the recital of Shema, and in blessings and the blessings, its blessings, meaning the blessings of the Shema before and after, and in other blessings, where through one's kavanah in them, he attaches his thought and intellect to God. So this is what Alter Rebbe concludes here. The mitzvah, the meaning of the mitzvah without kavanah is like a body without a soul. So yes, ultimately the body is the main thing in that sense, because this is the mitzvah of Hashem, the will of Hashem. But the life that you add to it by the soul, by the Kavanah, is because in Kavanah, when you have the intent to connect, it brings out a much greater and deeper godly energy in you and connects you in a deeper way to Hashem. This is the end of today's shir. We'll continue with Hashem tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.